When the car door clicked shut, a chill brushed the back of my neck. "VIPs first," he said, and somehow, those words stung more than the cold air. All my life I've earned with my own hands, yet that day, I was judged by my old car. I swallowed my anger, as I always did, but not this time. The moment that red CCTV light blinked on, something inside me snapped. And that's when everything began to change. Let me tell you what happened. You're listening to Silver Story Tree, where the voices of life's late chapters gently bloom again. Subscribe, like, and turn on the bell to hear more heartfelt stories that grow with time. As I closed the door of my old car, the underground parking lot's chill crept up the back of my neck. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. Rustle the parking ticket paper tore through the machine, scratching the air with its mechanical sound. I stood waiting, my hands still carrying the scent of soy sauce marinade from my banchan shop. "VIPs have priority. Please step aside for a moment." The parking attendant's gesture was dismissive, his voice flat. Park Doyen's name tag gleamed under the harsh lights as he barely glanced at me. I had just finished delivering side dishes to Dongray Market, my fingers still smelling of garlic and soy sauce. My shopping basket hung from my arm, the weight familiar after decades of carrying similar loads. "I need a parking ticket too," I said, keeping my voice even. My mother always taught me that dignity doesn't need volume. Doyen looked at my old Hyundai, his eyes narrowing slightly. "The condition of your car. According to regulations, it's difficult," he said, his words clipped and rehearsed. The imported car in the next lane passed through without question, its sleek body gleaming under the parking lot lights. From behind me, a short horn sounded several times in impatience. The sound pressed against my back like cold fingers, judging people by their cars. My heart sank coolly to the pit of my stomach. At 68, I'd seen this kind of treatment before, but it never stopped stinging. After running my banchan shop for 30 years and managing rental properties, I wasn't used to being dismissed so easily. I watched as Doyen crumpled the temporary receipt, printing from the machine, and tossed it into the trash bin. The casual disregard in his movement made my chest tighten. "Regulations are regulations," he said, the final syllable stabbing like a needle. His words hung in the chilly air between us. At that moment, the red light of the ceiling CCTV camera blinked on. I noticed it immediately, a small red dot watching our interaction. Something stirred within me, not just indignation, but a calm, clear resolve. The cold air settled around me, but inside, something was warming up. Years of standing at market stalls, of negotiating lease terms, of surviving. After my husband's passing, all these experiences hardened into a single thought: this time would be different. I looked at Doyen once more, memorizing his face, his name tag, his posture. Then I turned and walked toward my car, my steps measured and deliberate. The parking lot lights buzzed overhead, a monotonous soundtrack to this small moment of disrespect that would soon grow into something neither of us expected. The sounds of other cars entering the structure, of tickets printing for more deserving customers, followed me as I walked away. But in my mind, I was already planning my return, not as a supplicant, but as someone who understood the power of evidence, procedure, and quiet determination. My old Hyundai sat in the farthest lane, trembling slightly as larger vehicles passed. The engine's gentle vibration traveled through the frame, almost like a heartbeat beneath my fingertips on the steering wheel. I sat quietly, breathing deeply to settle my thoughts. Each time bus number 181 crossed the overpass, a low-frequency rumble filled the air. The sound traveled down through the concrete and into the parking structure, creating a rhythmic backdrop to my waiting. "VIP waitlist is full today," another attendant called to Doyen. He merely nodded, avoiding eye contact with me, as he continued processing cars in the other lanes. The morning light barely reached this deep into the parking structure, leaving everything in a gray half-light. I made my way to Suyong Cafe, where the barista handed me a hot Americano. The warmth of the cup spread through my hands, chasing away the underground chill. The cafe smelled of freshly ground beans and pastries, a comforting contrast to the sterile concrete of the parking garage. My phone rang. Choi Myungja was calling. "Boss, you were disrespected," she said without preamble. Myungja never wasted words, one of the reasons we'd been friends. For over 20 years, she had heard my voice and immediately known something was wrong. I just needed a parking ticket, I replied, keeping my voice steady. But I could feel the tendons on the back of my hand standing out, betraying the calm I was trying to maintain. Nothing more, nothing less. The memory of my husband's funeral 3 years ago flashed. Unexpectedly, the cold sound of stamps on document after document, handling everything alone while grieving. The administrative machinery had ground on, indifferent to my loss. Today's dismissal carried the same impersonal chill. This time will be different. The sentence formed clearly in my mind, distinct and resolute. Not a reaction born of anger, but a decision made with clarity. The fragment of the parking ticket on my dashboard caught the sunlight, reflecting a bright point onto the ceiling of my car. I studied the employee ID and timestamp code at the bottom of the receipt. I'd retrieved from the bin after Duyan had left his post for a moment. Sitting in the cafe, I watched people come and go, their conversations flowing around me like water. Some carried expensive shopping bags, others wore work uniforms. All of them had their own stories, their own struggles. I sipped my coffee slowly, letting the warmth spread through me. The coffee was bitter, but clarifying. With each sip, my path forward became more certain. Outside, Hyundai's sea breeze carried salt and the promise of afternoon rain. The sound of traffic mingled with distant waves. A reminder that beyond this moment, life continued its rhythm. I would soon rejoin that rhythm, but changed, determined. My phone chimed with a message from my daughter Seojin. Mom, you okay? You're usually home by now. I smiled at her concern, remembering how she'd handled the legal maze. After her father's passing, she had her father's precision and my persistence, a formidable combination. The world doesn't see older women, I thought. We become invisible after a certain age. But invisibility can be a kind of power too. People reveal themselves when they think no one important is watching. I finished my coffee and stood up, smoothing my jacket. The path ahead was clear now. Recording start. The small red icon pulsed on my phone screen. As I walked back to the parking booth, my heart beat steadily, neither racing nor faltering. This was not about emotion but about procedure. Could you please repeat what you said earlier? VIPs have priority. So step aside, is that correct? I asked, holding my phone visibly, my voice calm and direct. Years of business negotiations had taught me the power of directness. Duyan looked at me, then at my phone. You can record if you want. It's the regulations, he said. But his breathing was uneven, the confidence in his voice wavering slightly. His name tag caught the fluorescent light as his chest rose and fell. I made a mental note of the CCTV camera angles, writing down the camera number and booth location in my small notebook. The pen made a soft scratching sound against the paper, a sound that had accompanied me through decades of running my business. Retrieving the temporary receipt from where I'd carefully preserved it, I took close-up photos of the employee ID, lane number, and timestamp. The evidence was building, piece by digital piece. My fingers, though wrinkled with age, were steady as they operated the camera. I sent a text message to my daughter, evidence secured. Preparing for customer service center and district office complaint. Seojin would understand immediately. She had helped me document everything. When the Market Association tried to raise stall fees unfairly last year. Walking directly to the customer service center, my steps were purposeful. The shopping center was busy. People moving in currents around displays and sales racks. None of them noticed the elderly woman with determined eyes. And a phone full of evidence. I need to see the team manager right now, I said to the young woman at the counter. Not a request, but a statement of fact. She began the usual deflections, but stopped when she saw my expression. I requested a switch to cash payment, disrupting the expected flow of interaction. I watched carefully as the staff responded, noting their reactions and the procedures they followed. Every deviation, every hesitation was information. I don't want VIP treatment. I want equal treatment, I said, keeping my sentences short and clear. No emotional appeals, no raised voice, just the simple weight of reasonable expectations. Filing a formal complaint, I made sure to secure the time, recipient, and case number. Each piece of official information was another anchor for what would follow. The young staff member seemed surprised by my methodical approach. Perhaps she was used to emotional outbursts rather than systematic documentation. In my bag, my fingertips touched the red folder containing the property registry copy. The paper was smooth and official, a tangible representation of facts that couldn't be dismissed with a casual wave. The weight of the folder in my bag reminded me of my late husband's words, "Jungok, in business, the person with the better records always wins." He had built his small printing business on that principle, and I had applied it to my Banchan shop and property investments. Outside, the afternoon had advanced, shadows lengthening across the parking lot. A cool breeze carried the scent of the sea, reminding me that beyond these walls of commerce, Hyundai continued its ancient rhythms of tide and time. I checked my watch, the vintage timepiece my husband had given me on our 30th anniversary. There was still time to prepare for tomorrow's deliveries, to marinate the fish and chop vegetables. Life would go on, but now with a purpose that extended beyond my daily routine. The path was set, evidence gathered, complaint filed, next steps planned. I walked toward my old car, its familiar shape waiting patiently where I had left it. Like me, it might be underestimated, but it was reliable, purposeful, and had many miles left to travel. The customer service manager's office door closed with a soft click. The sound of the air conditioning hummed steadily in the background, creating a neutral soundtrack for what would follow. Yoon Jimin sat across from me, her expression professional but cautious. "I apologize for your experience. Let me first confirm the facts," Jimin said, her notepad ready, pen poised. Her office was organized with meticulous precision, files aligned, computer screen spotless, even her business cards arranged at a perfect angle. Through the glass partition, I could see Doyoon being called to the HR department. His expression hardened as he read the message on his computer screen. His shoulders tensed visibly, even from this distance. The VIP priority policy means coordinating simultaneous entries during congested periods, Jimin explained, showing me the official wording from the company handbook. The fluorescent lights reflected off the glossy page, creating small points of glare. "That phrasing should not become an excuse for discrimination," I replied, keeping my tone conversational but firm. I placed my own notebook on the desk between us, open to the page where I'd recorded the exact words and gestures Doyoon had used. After our discussion about internal policies, I mentioned my request to the Hyundai district office for administrative guidance on improving signage language. Jimin's eyebrows rose slightly. She hadn't expected this level of escalation from someone she might have initially dismissed as just another complaining customer. Jimin reached into her desk drawer and produced an apology coupon book. "We value your business," she began, but I raised my hand slightly. "Let's establish proper procedures first," I said. The coupon book remained on the desk between us, untouched. This wasn't about compensation, it was about correction. Doyoon's phone buzzed with a text message about his father's surgery schedule. Though he tried to hide it, I caught the flash of worry that crossed his face as he read the screen. Working in the Banchan business for decades had taught me to read people quickly, what ingredients they preferred, what prices they could afford, what stories their expressions told. I recognized the anxiety in his eyes, the pressure he must be under. But I separated his circumstances from his responsibility. One could explain the other without excusing it. On Jimin's desk, I noticed a memo that read, "Secure CCTV audio-video." She had taken this seriously, then. Sometimes, all it takes is one person following proper procedures to begin setting things right. The overhead announcement system crackled to life, instructing all involved parties to move to the meeting room. The mechanical voice echoed slightly in the office, creating a moment of official transition. The real discussion was about to begin. As we gathered our materials to relocate, I noticed Jimin watching me with a new assessment in her eyes. Perhaps she was wondering how this seemingly ordinary elderly woman had mounted such a methodical response. What she couldn't know was that years of running a business, managing properties, and surviving loss had taught me that systems only work when people insist that they do. The hallway to the meeting room was lined with photographs of the department store. Through the years, its grand opening, expansions, celebrations. I wondered how many other stories like mine had unfolded within these walls. And how many had ended differently. Because someone didn't know how to navigate the systems of power. My phone vibrated with a message from Myungja, standing firm, right? Don't let them sweet-talk you. I smiled slightly. After 40 years of friendship, she knew exactly what I needed to hear. Outside the meeting room windows, I could see the distant blue line of the sea meeting the sky. Hyundai Beach would be filling with afternoon visitors now. Families spreading blankets. Children building castles from the same sand that would be washed away by evening tide. There was something comforting in that cycle of building and renewal. The meeting room door opened, revealing a polished table and expectant faces. I straightened my posture, adjusted the red folder under my arm, and stepped forward into the next phase of my resolution. The conference room door swung shut with a substantial thud. The sound resonated in the space, marking the beginning of our formal meeting. Corporate representatives, Jimin, Dooyeon, and I sat facing each other across the polished wooden table in the customer lounge. The gentle hum of the climate control system provided a constant backdrop to our conversation. The room was designed to be impressive high ceilings, tasteful artwork. A view of Hyundai Beach in the distance. Power was built into its very architecture. We've confirmed all the CCTV footage, audio recordings, and receipt evidence, Jimin stated, placing a folder on the table between us. Her voice was professional, neither defensive nor apologetic, simply factual. On the screen mounted to the wall, Doyeon's dismissive hand gesture played in high definition. His words, "Step aside," echoed clearly through the room's audio system. Seeing the interaction from this external perspective was strange, like watching a scene from someone else's life. Though I had lived through it just yesterday. I never requested VIP treatment. Only equal treatment, I said, watching the faces around the table. The corporate representative was taking notes, his expression carefully neutral. Jimin was attentive, professionally concerned. Dooyeon looked at the table, his discomfort visible in the tightness of his shoulders. I sincerely apologize, Dooyeon said, finally looking up. I've been under performance pressure. My father is in the hospital. His voice trailed off, the personal details hanging awkwardly in the professional atmosphere of the room. I understand your circumstances, I replied, my voice gentle but firm. However, the responsibility for our actions remains our own. The room was quiet enough that I could hear the soft ticking of the wall clock, measuring out the moments between us. I opened the red folder and placed the property registry copy, showing partial ownership of the parking structure on the table. The document made a soft sound as it settled on the polished wood, its official stamps and seals facing upward for all to see. This isn't about flaunting wealth, I explained, indicating the document. It's about speaking as someone who bears partial responsibility for this building's operations. The surprise on their faces was subtle, but unmistakable. Corporate representatives weren't used to elderly women in simple clothes, turning out to be stakeholders. I request text modifications, service manual improvements, and a public commitment to prevent recurrence. I continued, laying out my points clearly. My voice remained calm, neither accusatory nor demanding, simply stating reasonable expectations based on documented facts. The corporate representative's pen stopped moving. His eyes shifted to a business card with a journalist's contact information that was partially visible from my open wallet. He didn't know that the journalist was actually my nephew, a small detail that nevertheless carried significant weight in this moment. Outside the conference room windows, clouds moved across the sky, changing the quality of light filtering into the room. Shadows shifted across the table, where we sat, across the documents that told our different stories. I thought of my Banshan shop, how I'd built it from nothing after my husband died. How I'd learned to navigate business relationships and property investments. How I'd taught myself to read contracts and understand regulations. All those skills had led to this moment. Dooyeon looked younger in this formal setting, more vulnerable than he had seemed behind the protection of his booth. I wondered what dreams he had, what pressures drove him. Empathy didn't erase responsibility, but it helped me see the whole person behind the actions that had brought us here. The corporate representative cleared his throat, breaking the thoughtful silence. Mrs. Han, your requests seem reasonable. We'll need to discuss implementation details. But in principle, we can commit to these changes. The tension in the room eased slightly, like a sail adjusting to a changing wind. Not victory or defeat, but a recalibration toward fairness. As the meeting concluded with handshakes and formal acknowledgments, I felt no triumph, only the quiet satisfaction of systems working as they should. The path to correction wasn't through anger or power plays, but through evidence, procedure, and reasonable expectations clearly stated. Outside, the afternoon sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows across Hyundai. The world continued its rhythm, unchanged by our small moment of justice within those corporate walls. The meeting ended with formal bows and promises of follow-up. As I stepped outside, the rhythmic sound of waves lapping against Hyundai Beach greeted me. Shish shish, shish shish. The familiar sound washed over me, soothing the lingering tension from the confrontation. I found an empty bench facing the ocean and sat down, my body relaxing into the familiar posture. The wooden slats were warm from the afternoon sun, comforting against my back. I caressed my husband's vintage watch, feeling the smooth glass and worn leather strap under my fingertips. You would have been more forceful, I whispered to his memory. A smile and sigh overlapping. Sunlight glinted off the watch face, almost like a wink of acknowledgement. After 39 years together, our conversations continued, even if only one voice could be heard aloud. Seojin approached, her professional attire slightly creased after a day at her office. Mom, you really did well today, she said, handing me a warm cup of barley tea. The familiar aroma rose with the steam, bringing memories of countless family meals and conversations. I didn't want to use money to intimidate them, I explained, watching the waves. I wanted to show them the power of proper procedure. Seagulls circled overhead, their cries mixing with the sounds of beachgoers enjoying the late afternoon sun. The owner of Suyong Cafe spotted me from the promenade and called out, "Boss." The news spread like lightning. Her voice carried on the breeze, sincere and supportive. Word travels quickly in communities like ours, where relationships have been built over decades rather than transactions. Bus number 181 passed on the coastal road, its lights blinking in the gathering dusk. The everyday rhythm was returning, ordinary life resuming its familiar patterns after the disruption of confrontation and resolution. A twinge of compassion tugged at the edge of my thoughts. That young man must be struggling too. The economy was difficult for everyone these days, especially the younger generation facing impossible housing prices and competitive job markets. My phone chimed with a notification. A draft public notice from the corporate headquarters had arrived for my review. The subject line read, "All customers are equal." They were asking for my input before publication. Seojin peered over my shoulder at the message. "They're actually following through," she remarked, surprise evident in her voice. "People usually do the right thing when the alternative becomes too uncomfortable," I replied, saving the document to review later. The sea breeze carried away the last of my tension, replacing it with a calm clarity. A family walked past our bench, 3 generations together, grandparents, parents, children, all connected by hands and shared laughter. Their joy was a simple reminder of what matters beyond the day's conflicts. The setting sun painted Hyundai Beach in shades of amber and gold, transforming the ordinary into the momentarily sublime. This view had witnessed countless human dramas, from the grandest historical events to the smallest personal victories. Mine was just one more story written on these shores. I stood up, gathering my belongings. Tomorrow would bring its own work, vegetables to chop, orders to fill, deliveries to make. The wheel of daily life would continue turning. But something had shifted within me, a quiet strengthening that would carry forward. "Let's go home," I said to Seojin. "I need to prepare for tomorrow's Banshin orders." We walked together toward the bus stop, our shadows stretching long behind us in the fading light. The final notice arrived in my email with a soft electronic ping. The screen illuminated my kitchen as I prepared the morning's banchan, casting a blue glow across the familiar workspace. During congested periods, coordinate simultaneous entries. Customer discrimination prohibited, read the new policy. The cutting board made a rhythmic sound against the countertop as I chopped vegetables for the day's kimchi preparation. Tap tap tap, the knife keeping time with my thoughts as I considered the revised wording. Line 3 of the revised service manual now included specific guidelines for expressions, tone, and gestures. The document had been forwarded to me for final review, an unusual courtesy that acknowledged the impact of my complaint. The education completion records and incident number had been permanently saved in the corporate system. These weren't just promises that would evaporate once attention moved. Elsewhere, they were documented commitments with trackable accountability. A response from the Hyundai District Office confirmed acceptance of administrative guidance for improving signage language. I saved the photo of the official letter to my cloud storage, alongside the complaint resolution document and the modified signage photos. My fingers, slightly stiff from years of food preparation and hard work, moved carefully across the keyboard as I organized these digital records. Technology had changed so much during my lifetime, but the importance of documentation remained constant. The leasing operations company had added a non-discrimination clause, with penalties for recurrence, to the subsidiary agreement. I reviewed the legal language carefully, noting how much stronger it was than the vague commitments that had existed before. All the clues from Chapter 3 had come full. Circle the CCTV capture, employee ID, complaint number, and document folder had coalesced into a complete resolution package. The evidence had served its purpose, transforming individual disrespect into institutional change. An envelope was delivered containing Doyen's handwritten apology and a copy of his father's hospital bill details. The paper was slightly crumpled at one corner, as though he had hesitated before sealing the envelope. His handwriting was surprisingly neat and careful. I placed the letter in my record file without dwelling on its contents. The apology mattered less than the systemic changes it had precipitated. Promises gain power when preserved as records, I explained to Seojin as she helped me organize the documentation. Morning light streamed through my kitchen window, illuminating decades of accumulated wisdom in the form of recipe notebooks, property documents, and business records. Each page represented lessons learned, systems navigated, and rights defended. The team manager arrived at my Banshan shop just as I was finishing the morning preparations. Jimin brought both an apology and a training schedule. Her professional demeanor softened slightly by what seemed like genuine respect. Outside, bus number 181 rumbled past on its regular route. The neighborhood was waking up, shutters rising on other shops, delivery trucks making their morning rounds, the everyday symphony of commerce and community beginning another day. I accepted the documents with a polite bow, neither triumphant nor resentful. This had never been about winning or punishment. It was about correction, about systems working properly for everyone, regardless of appearance or possessions. As Jimin left, I returned to preparing the day's Banshan orders. My hands moved through the familiar routine: slicing, mixing, packaging that had sustained me and my customers for decades. The work was physical, immediate, and satisfying in its tangible results. The morning radio played softly in the background, the announcer's voice rising and falling with the day's news and weather. Rain was expected later, good for the farmers, but challenging for my afternoon deliveries. Life continued its practical concerns. Alongside the resolution of yesterday's conflict, my phone chimed with messages from regular customers, placing their orders for the day. These relationships, built over years of reliable service and mutual respect, were the true foundation of my business, not documents or policies, but human connections maintained through consistent actions. Through my shop window, I could see Hyundai in the distance, the morning sun sparkling on the water. The same view that had witnessed my moment of disrespect now observed its resolution. The sea remained unchanged, indifferent to human dramas, yet somehow comforting in its constant presence. Morning sunlight slanted across the parking lot floor, creating long stripes of light and shadow. The concrete still held the night's coolness, but the promise of warmth grew stronger with each passing minute. A new day was beginning. The new sign gleamed in the morning light: all customers are equal. The metal plate reflected the sunrise, creating small bursts of brilliance against the utilitarian gray of the parking structure. Words made manifest in material form. My old car's engine awakened with a deep, dull rumble. The sound was as familiar to me as my own heartbeat. After 15 years of ownership, we had traveled many miles together. This vehicle and I, witnesses to each other's aging and endurance. Duyan approached as I rolled down my window. "Ma'am, I'm truly sorry about before. I've learned from this," he said. His uniform was crisply pressed, his posture more attentive than defensive now. The change wasn't just in policies but in personal awareness. "Today is where it starts," I replied, meeting his eyes directly. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement of the potential for change. The morning air carried the scent of the sea. Through my open window, fresh and clarifying. I checked the delivery list in my trunk, then lifted out my shopping basket. The familiar weight settled into the crook of my arm, ready to be filled with ingredients for the day's cooking. My hands, though wrinkled and spotted with age, remained strong and capable. The radio DJ's voice floated from my car. Speakers, adjust to each other's pace, listeners. The cheerful voice seemed to be speaking directly to our situation, though it was merely the morning's general advice to commuters. Hyundai's morning breeze slipped through the car window, carrying salt and possibilities. It ruffled the delivery list in my hand, and cooled my face after the warmth of the car interior. The city was fully awake now, its rhythms accelerating toward the day's activities. I drove slowly out of the exit lane, no longer relegated to the margins, but moving through the center with quiet confidence. The attendants nodded respectfully as I passed, the new sign visible above their booth. As I merged into the morning traffic, I noticed how the sunlight transformed ordinary buildings into extraordinary canvases of light and shadow. The city I had known for decades revealed new facets in this morning illumination. Much as familiar systems had revealed new possibilities. Through my simple insistence on fairness, the coastal road curved alongside Hyundai Beach, where early morning walkers and joggers were already enjoying the sand and surf. Their figures were small from this distance, but their movements spoke of purpose and enjoyment. At a stoplight, I glanced at my reflection in the rearview mirror. The same face that had been dismissed days ago now carried a subtle difference, not pride, but certainty. My phone chimed with a message from Seojin. "Mom, you're trending in the neighborhood chat. Everyone's talking about how you stood up to the department store." I smiled at the thought but didn't check the message while driving. The morning sun warmed my shoulders through the car window as I drove toward the market. Today's Banchan orders wouldn't prepare themselves, and my customers depended on the consistency and quality I had maintained for decades. As I parked near the market entrance, I noticed an elderly woman being helped from her car by a young attendant. Their interaction was respectful, considerate, the way things should be. Later, I would return to the department store as a customer, not a complainant. The system had been adjusted, respect established, lessons learned on all sides. But for now, there was work to be done. Recipes to prepare, customers to serve with the care and attention everyone deserves. Now I'm trying to live as myself. Not defined by others' perceptions, not limited by age or appearance, but fully present in my own life with all its complexities and dignities. Hello everyone, my name is Han Jung-ok. It hurt to be judged by appearances, but today, I learned something important, that truth and fairness can also protect our hearts. If you've been through a similar moment, please don't face it alone. Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments. Your words might comfort someone who needs them. Your likes and subscriptions give me strength to keep sharing these stories. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, I'd be grateful if you passed it along. Thank you sincerely for spending this time with me. Please stay healthy, and I hope to meet you again with a warm heart next time.